There won't be any more of this, what's going on all over the world. We have not had anything like this since the 1920s and 30s and other periods prior. I mean, in England, ladies and gentlemen, in England, you have someone who may be the Prime Minister of England in the near future, this guy Corbyn, who is an outright anti-Semite and is proud of it and has no problem. And a party in Israel, the Labour Party in England, that literally, it's like one guy after the other. Nastiness about the Jewish people. Nastiness about Eretz Yisrael. Hatred towards the Jewish people. A situation that we've never seen before. It's become almost respectable. There used to be a time, if you were called an anti-Semite, you said, no, I'm not an anti-Semite. I'm not an anti-Semite. And you would apologize and you would this and that. That is changing. Corbyn stands by all the things he's accused of. A situation that I can tell you that the people in England, the Jewish communities in England, are deeply concerned about. And then you could move over to France, where there were 500,000 Jews until recently. Still one of the largest Jewish communities. I believe it's the third or fourth largest community. Where people in France today don't wear a Magen David. If your wife has a Magen David, get rid of it. Don't wear a yarmulke. You cannot wear a yarmulke in the street. The anti-Semitism in France, what's going on today, people have been murdered. People are beaten up on a regular basis, beaten up in the streets like they did during the Nazis in the 1930s. France, England. You know, in England, there was a poll. The Jews said, if Corbyn gets elected, 40% of the Jews are ready to move out of England. Yeah, not so fast. But that's the matziv that exists. By the way, we are talking about democracies here. We're talking about democracies. Out of control all over Europe. And what's going on here in the United States, everybody. You can't, I don't know if you follow everything. Not everything gets in the newspaper. Not everything gets on television. But it has become a regular phenomena. Jews getting beaten up in Crown Heights. Jews being murdered in Pittsburgh. You can't keep track of the swastikas. The ultimate symbol of hate. Our enemies talk about destroying the Jewish people. And you have members of Congress today. You never had anything like this. There are a lot of people who were not our friends in the United States Congress for a long time. But today you have people who openly disparage, who openly express their hate for Jews, their hate for Israel. This whole BDS movement, which is the most preposterous thing in the world, where Israel is boycotted, divested, sanctioned. I mean, it's the most amazing thing. There are 192 countries in the world. Some of them are very small. 192 countries. How many BDS movements are there in this world? You have China that has 1 million people being held in prisons and concentration camps. These Muslims, these Uyghurs. Is there a BDS movement for China? There are countries all over the world that deny freedom to their people. Russia, China, other countries all over the world. There's only one BDS movement directed against one single country in the world. And that is the people of Israel. It's the most incredible thing in the world. One single country that they direct their hatred toward. You have people like Farrakhan. We've heard that name for so many years. I want you to know, I'm not concerned about the anti-Semites as much as I am concerned about good people who sit quietly and don't do anything, and don't say anything. That's the dangerous part for Klal Yisrael. and not just for Klal Yisrael, for the American people. When good people in the United States Congress don't do the right thing, whether it's a Jerry Nadler, whether it's a Schumer, or many of the others, when you have outright hatred, and they are silent. I know who Farrakhan is. I know what a miserable person he is. His hate for the Jewish people, his hatred for white people, his hatred for a lot of other groups. But people go to him. They applaud him. Members of Congress are friendly with him. This women's movement that you have, you know, we're talking about a guy, Farrakhan, whose record is so clear. Just a few months ago, I'm sure the Eagle is not that familiar with Aretha Franklin, but she's a major figure, she was a major figure in the United States, performer, singer. I actually liked her music. She passed away. They had an event for her. Thousands of people. Who was sitting there right in the front? Farrakhan, right here. Al Sharpton, right here. Another Tzaddik Hadar. Next you had Jesse Jackson. That I understand. I don't have a problem with that. But who was sitting right there next to them? Former President of the United States, Bill Clinton. That's the problem. That's the problem. Would Bill Clinton sit next to David Duke? Would Bill Clinton sit next to the head of the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan? We need to seriously be concerned. Deborah Lipset, who's a very well-known historian, she was the woman, by the way, that was sued by David Irving, the Holocaust denier. She was a couple of years ago, and she won the case. She's very well-known in America. She just wrote a book on anti-Semitism. Just came out. And not Dov Hikind. But Deborah Lipset says, we need to be very scared and nervous. This is a situation that has not existed before. We have hate coming from the political right, right? We have hate coming from the left. And then she has a third group, hate from the Muslim community. And she talks about, I mean, I felt maybe I was the only one really talking, because no one has really come out and said, we've got a real problem. And we, Jewish people, know from our experience. Can anybody here tell me that they know what God's plans are for us? Does anybody here know? Does anybody know, is it all, we're okay here in America? We have nothing to be concerned about? It's all going to be good? We're going to wait for Mashiach here, it's going to be good? Look what's going on. Did you ever expect anything like this? Did you ever see anything like this? If you follow social media, I mean, Jews being attacked because they're Jews. Children being attacked in the streets because they're Jews. So, this is what I'm all my life. I am a product of a family where I never met my grandparents, because fine people in this world put them into a gas chamber. I grew up in a world where my mother went to Auschwitz in 1944. That's real to me, with little children on the line. I remember one of those little children, Mechala. My mother would always tell us Mechala was on the line with little cookies in a little bag that he had. And Mechala looked up his mother, grandmother, other members of the family, and said, my mother would repeat this, she would say, "Megaitens nicht hargene?" Are they going to kill us? This 3-year-old said. We live in a very dangerous world when people are silent about the anti-Semites, because it's not politically the thing to do. Because if you're a Democrat, you'll criticize a Republican, but not people within your own party. It's scary. It's insane what's going on. You know, we have a senator here in New York Senator Schumer, I'm being very open with you. How many times have you heard him? All Rabbanim here, so you've heard him so many times. Come to your shul, come to your community, come to your events. And what does he say? The same thing. Do you know what the word Schumer means? It means shomer. I am a shomer, he says, Schumer. Schumer says I'm a shomer. Well, if you're going to depend on him as a shomer Yisrael, we are in real trouble. Do you remember? He was the guy who supported, for the head of the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, they had an opening, remember? They had an opening. Now they have this guy Perez, but there was an opening. And who did the Shomer Yisrael from New York support to be the head of the National Democratic Party? Ellison, a congressman filled with hatred towards Israel. This is who the Shomer Yisrael from New York, not from somewhere mid-America, somewhere far away. The Shomer Yisrael. And the other senator from New York, Gillibrand, who's a total fraud. Gillibrand, she used to support legislation to make it illegal to support BDS. Wonderful, right? From New York. She changed her mind. She changed her mind. Because she's running for president. And if you want to run for president, you have to be, well, Democrat, of course. Like this word progressive is going to destroy this country. I'm not against being progressive. I think I'm progressive. Ask my wife. I'm very progressive. But you got to be progressive, liberal, progressive. It's off the charts. Very dangerous situation. Deborah Lipsitz says that in her book, her conclusion. This is really unbelievable. But it's obvious to me, because we don't know for sure what's going to happen. And what are we doing about it? How are we dealing with it? I don't know. I don't know.